In this video, I'm going to break down my last San Diego Bay fishing session of 2017 so I can show you how to learn from watching fishing videos. That's coming up, so stay tuned. Hey, it's Castro. Welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you here. If it's your first time, if you want to become a better angler and catch more fish, consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Alright, let's talk about how we can learn from watching fishing videos. In my videos, I leave a lot of clues for you. Let's go over my last 5 spotties of 2017. Spotty number 5 in this breakdown was my last fish of 2017, and it was a legal spotty. It was a legal spotted bay bass. Not a bad way to round off the year. One thing people take for granted is that they don't realize that you can see the conditions that the fisherman is fishing in. So for example, you can see the wind, you can see if it's cloudy, if it's sunny. If you're familiar with the area, and you recognize the stuff in the background, you can see where people are fishing. So those are some things that a lot of people don't look at when they're looking at fishing videos. Just the conditions and all that stuff. It's all valuable information. When I watch a fishing video, I look for all that stuff, and I know it's gonna help me figure out patterns down the road. All right, so let's jump into spotted bay bass number 1 of this session. When I edit my videos, I cut so that I show a little bit of the retrieve right before the bite. This helps you see the retrieve speed and rod position right before I get the bite. As far as lures and rigging, when I'm editing my videos, I like to leave that stuff in there because I know it's helpful to you trying to figure out how to fish. In this case, it was a Warbaits half-ounce underspin with the mono halo shad swim bait in the 4-inch model. Right now we're going to move on to spotted bay bass number 2 of this session. I include the cast so you can see the direction relative to me on the boat and relative to the background. That'll give you an idea of how I'm casting. Am I casting towards shore? Am I casting parallel to shore? And it'll kind of give you an idea of what I'm going for. On this cast, I missed the initial bite, but then I've learned through experience that you just kind of take up the slack and let the lure sink back down to the bottom, and usually you'll get a second strike. So in this case, we've got the second strike. I was able to set the hook and pull this guy in. Here I switched to a lighter setup. This is 30-pound braid going to a 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. It's a 3/8 scrounger head, big hammer, 3-inch swim bait. On this cast, you can see the bite comes a little after I slow down. So that tells me that the fish is attracted to either a slower retrieve or the change from fast to slow, right? It's kind of a weird nuance to think about, but so that tells me when I'm fishing that the next cast, and the next 2 casts, I'm gonna try 2 different things. The first cast, I'm gonna try retrieving the lure slow, like at the speed I changed to during the last cast, to see if that helps me get bit. And the other thing I'm gonna try is retrieving it at a little bit faster speed, and then changing the speed again to slow. So what I'm trying to figure out is if the fish is attracted to the change in speed or the slow moving lure, right? So that's 2 different things. And normally you wouldn't think about something like that. You would just think, oh yeah, just wind it slow. Yeah, but if it's consistently being wound slow, it's gonna keep moving, right? Maybe the fish is attracted to this and then going this, right? So it's a difference that you don't normally think about, but this is the stuff that's gonna make you a better fisherman. You're gonna think about the little things that a lot of people take for granted. For spotted bay bass number 4, I'm fishing these moorings, and being a spear fisherman, I've been underwater near moorings before, and I know that the topology under the water is it'll go from shallow, close to shore, and then what they'll do is they'll dig out the trench where the boats are moored, and on that drop off, that's where you'll catch like halibut and that kind of stuff. Like fish have an opportunity basically to ambush stuff that's swimming over it or swimming along it, right? So what I like to do with this kind of situations, I'll line up where I think that drop off is. I'll cast parallel to it, and that gives the fish an opportunity to ambush that lure, right? So another thing that you want to notice is when you get that bite, I know that it takes me 50 cranks on my bait caster on that Shimano C4i. It's a 6.4 to 1, I think. 6.4 to 1. It takes me like about 50 full cranks to get the lure back from a full cast, right? So depending on where that strike happens, once I set the hook, in my mind I'm kind of counting how many cranks, and that gives me an idea of how far that fish was from the boat when it bit, right? That's very important because what I've noticed is these fish, these spotted bay bass especially, they like to be in groups, right? Like to be in areas. So like especially on the eelgrass. So I'm a spear fisherman. I've been free diving, spearfishing since 2011, and I've dove around the bays for looking for halibut. And when you're looking for halibut, you end up running into a ton of spotted bay bass here and there. And one of the things I've noticed with these spotted bay bass is they like to hang out in eelgrass, of course. Everybody knows that. But they also like to hang out it seems like in groups. It's kind of like once they find I've dove areas of the bay where like there's eelgrass, everything looks good, the conditions look right for like spotted bay bass to live in, but they're not there. And then you'll explore this whole bay, and they'll all be in 1 or 2 or 3 clumps of area of eelgrass, and they'll each have their own little claim stake. Like they'll have like a fish like that big will have a space of about 5 feet to like 6 feet, and then like a little bit bigger fish will have like a little bit bigger area, all like staking their little claim on the eelgrass patch. Once you see one of those guys, there's usually going to be other ones spread out in that same kind of pattern, right? So what I like to do now, I take that spearfishing knowledge and I take it up with me to the surface, and I say, okay, well, if I catch a spotty here, it's very likely there's going to be more spotties around it. So what I'll do is once I catch a spotty, I'll drop my anchor or remember the spot and just do drifts on that same area. And basically I'll do like a fan cast. I would cast on the same spot a couple times and then spread out from there, because there usually is a bunch of them and they're spread out because they each claim their little area. Alright, so before we jump into the last bass of 2017 for me, my last legal spotty, if you find this content useful and you've learned anything from this video today, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Alright, let's do bass number 5. So bass number 5, alright, so for this one I apply one of my go-to hacks, which is fish where the shore fishermen can't get to, right? So I like to fish in the areas where, of course, there's structure and current and all that kind of stuff, and but my 2 requirements are areas that are outside of a shore angler's casting range and get overlooked by boat anglers, either because their boats can't get in those areas or they have access to better fishing spots, so they just go to better fishing spots, right? So that's where I live. I live in the space between shore anglers and and boat anglers, right? So I'm sharing all the space with the kayak anglers. And there's not as many kayak anglers as there are like shore fishermen and like boat fishermen, I think. So anyway, that's kind of my hack. So in this situation, I'm fishing the moor line, right? I'm fishing parallel to all the moors, and I see some guys casting from shore, so I can see how far they're casting, and I know exactly how far they can get. So I only fish outside of their casting range and up until like the moors and stuff. So what I was doing in this case is I lined up with all the moors and I cast it towards the next moor. And the reason I do that is from being in the water before, just seeing the behavior of like calico bass and like spotted bay bass, I know that the calico bass like things that are up and down like kelp stalks, and they like to suspend on it, right? So like say this is a kelp stalk and the current's going this way, the kelp stalk in the water will look like this, right? And this will be floating on the surface, and then it'll have leaves here being pushed by the water, by the current, and then the calico bass will be right here stacked up on it. So that's what I know. That's what I know from seeing the fish behavior underwater, right? So I take that same principle and apply it to. I've actually seen this before too. Those moors are held in place by these big ropes and chains that anchor to either like engine blocks or just heavy things on the bottom, and that creates a structure. That creates structure for the fish to hide in and to relate to. So the calico bass will relate to it higher, like mid water column, or like along that rope that goes down to the anchor, and then the spotties and the other fish will be down towards the bottom, like in the eelgrass, relating to around that anchor point. But anyway, so that's why I cast here. What I do here is when I'll see the moor, I'll cast past it by like 5-7 feet, and then I let the lure sink. And while it's sinking, it doesn't sink straight down, right? If you're casting this way, it sinks like an arch, right, coming towards you. So it sinks there, and I figure that if the rope is here, it'll sink past it and maybe catch some calicos if the calicos want to hit it. If not, I'll just kind of like bounce it on the bottom on the way back to the boat. That's what I did here in this situation. I casted, let the lure sink all the way to the bottom. Nothing hit on the way down. I bounced it a couple times. Actually, I retrieved it a couple times, and then boom, I got hit by this body. Last legal spotty of 2017. It's awesome. Great way to close off the year. Check out 7 fishing hacks in 5 minutes. I'll link that in the YouTube card right here. If you want to become a better angler and catch more fish, consider subscribing. Click on the round icon right here. You'll subscribe and I'll continue to share more tips and insights to help you catch more fish. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the water. Woo!